Welcome to Resource PNG. We begin this program with a look at the 2016 national budget. The budget was presented to Parliament on Tuesday, November the 3rd. The O'Neill-Dion government used its numerical strength to pass the budget that same evening by 84 votes to 12. This week, the O'Neill-Dion government presented Papua New Guinea's national budget for 2016. Here is the 2016 national budget at a glance. The 2016 budget is set at 14.208 billion kina against projected revenue of 12.179 billion kina. This translates into a deficit of 2.029 billion or 3% of GDP, and will bring the total debt in 2016 to 35.8% of GDP. This is 292.7 million kina lower than the 2015 revised estimate.
Even though 2016 government expenditure is maintained at around the 2014 level, key priorities remain intact, with health receiving the fourth largest share in the budget with a 1.57 billion kina or 11% of the total budget. This is 461 million kina more than in 2015. Education is the next largest, with funding of 1.32 billion kina or 9.3% of the budget. The largest share of the expenditure goes to the provinces, which receives 3.7 billion kina or 26.2% of the budget, with the District Services Improvement Program and PSIP receiving 890 million kina and 220 million kina respectively. The big increase in provincial funding should help underpin improvements of all types of public expenditure throughout the country. Ladies and gentlemen, with the tighter budget, greater attention will be paid to improve management and better use of resources. Together with assistance from the International Monetary Fund, the government will also take a closer look at debt sustainability and debt management issues. Papua New Guinea's first ever sovereign bond issue of $1 billion will be pursued in coming weeks in order to diversify government funding sources and to ease the pressure on the domestic market. The Papua New Guinea Sovereign Wealth Fund, which has had the bipartisan political support, will come into operation in the new year. Petroleum and mineral taxes and dividends will flow into the SWF for the first quarter of next year to be apportioned into a stabilization fund and a savings fund. Ladies and gentlemen, you can see that despite revenue constraints, the government is using the 2016 budget to continue to build the foundations for a strong and vibrant economy that will be bolstered by the provisions of better public services.
The priorities in 2016 are consistent with the national government's key priorities in recent years. The provinces received 3.662 billion kina or 26% of the total budget, which is the largest share of the total national budget. Major appropriations include DSIP with 890 million kina, PSIP 220 million kina, LLG SIP 31.4 million kina, District Support Grants 55.5 million kina, and Special Support Grants of 13.3 million kina. The administration sector receives 2.545 billion kina or 18% of the total budget, the second largest share of the budget. Major projects include the Lands and Housing Program 20 million kina, the General Elections 10 million kina, APEC Authority 80 million kina, of which 35 million kina will be for both the national elections and APEC security preparation, Drought Disaster Relief Programs 50 million kina, and Agriculture Commercialization Equity Fund of 100 million kina. The health sector receives the third largest share with a total of 1.565 billion kina or 11%. Key expenses include drugs and medical supplies 151 million kina, church health grants 26 million kina, free healthcare 20 million kina, HIV/AIDS treatment drugs at 14.1 million kina, and medical equipment 5.6 million kina. The education sector has received the fourth largest share of 1.312 billion kina, or 9% of the total budget. This includes government's tuition fee-free education, 602 million kina, nursing college rehabilitation, teachers college rehabilitation, and trade skills scholarship, all receiving 10 million kina each. The transport sector receives the fifth largest share of 1.254 billion kina, or 8.8%. This comprises government-funded Highlands Highway, 200 million kina, Leh Nadzab Road, 45 million kina, East-West New Britain Highway upgrading of 20 million kina, National Highway 70 million kina, Leh City Roads and Port Moresby International Terminal upgrade, both 10 million kina each. The law and order sector has received the sixth largest share of 1.240 billion kina, or 8.7%. This includes the Police Modernization Program, 37.6 million kina, the Defence Rebuild Program, 22.1 million kina, and the National Judiciary Waigani Court Complex Redevelopment, 80 million kina. The economic sector has been allocated 610.6 million kina, the utilities sector 378 million kina, and debt servicing 1.479 billion kina, while the community and culture sector has been allocated 156.4 million kina.
The other massive shock, of course, to our budgets is the collapse in the price of oil. Commodity prices are low as well, and this is a cyclical matter, but nobody predicted the calamitous crash in the price of oil. We have deliberately and aggressively adopted deficit budgets, and rightly so, to invest in development on the back of the PNG LNG project and create fiscal stimulus. We have collectively delivered this huge project successfully to find the price of oil and consequently gas collapse just after first production. It is a low-cost project by world standards though, and we expect some revenue to come in this year and next year, of course, but at greatly reduced levels. Prices will, of course, turn around, and there are good times ahead, no doubt. The point is, we remain an economy that is reliant heavily on oil and gold prices and primary production as well, whether it be logs, tuna, or coffee. These factors, though, and their effects on our budgets, are external factors, and we've said again and again, beyond our control. And Treasury used the same words, but both these factors came as a double whammy together this year, and in some respects, you could say they're a bit of bad luck, particularly when you consider the planning around the PNG LNG gas project, heavy investment, first production, and then, of course, we get hit by the oil prices. On top of that, we have the El Nino and the drought.
Given current low world commodity prices, the government has taken a bold move by issuing a sovereign bond, a first for the country, aimed at raising much-needed revenue. According to Treasurer Secretary Dairi Vele, the issuing of a sovereign bond has become necessary given the drastic reduction in government revenue in 2015, particularly from revenue from mining and petroleum tax.
The sovereign bond is the idea that the government goes out and it's the first time we're doing it, so this is a debut sovereign bond for us. But we're hoping to raise $1 billion. But the markets are the markets. We will turn up and we will say, this is our PNG story. So your international investors, this is where we think the investment opportunities are. These are some of the challenges we face. And then we will get feedback as to whether they offer us, or they offer us that money for us to pursue our development agenda. And we would like to think, again, we will go out there and try and raise $1 billion, but the markets are the markets. These are controlled by international financial and capital market forces, and so we will give it our best shot.
It's just been a difficult year. I mean, for these, I think the production issues have also started to kick in. Octedi slowing down is a very big issue, and again, that goes from actively producing, actively selling, to not selling, and then not producing. So those are the numbers, are what they are. I would also imagine that entities have started to push back their development programs. I think in the early part of last year, we were looking at accelerating some of the development programs that they had, both in the mining and the petroleum sector. As things have changed, everyone has just changed. And there's been some, unfortunately there are some, with Octedi, it's a stop in operations. in oil search, it's actually cutting jobs. And so, is this sustainable in the medium term? We think not. We would like to think that the recovery will start in the third term of next year. But again, if we knew what the oil price would be, then we all wouldn't be here.
The first installment gives a very good indication of what the next two installments would be. So in the first installment, the actual amount that was paid in was very low compared to the projection, and therefore, likewise, we've seen the same outcome in the second installment, and the third installment, I think, being paid in now. So I think we've noted a huge amount of variations. There may be cost issues to the projects, etc. But as Secretary said, the figures are what they are, and that's what we're going with. I mean, it may need some auditing, but it again comes back to resources. Thanks.
At the end of the day, many of my my members and also their investment partners, they want transparency in rules, and for us, the taxation system does help, but fundamentally, if you're able to have a regulatory process that does provide the necessary stable and predictable rules, it will attract investment. It's, the Papua Basin holds so much mineral and hydrocarbon resources, and as is in other parts of the country. To attract those sorts of investments, and also in some of our food bowls around the country, Markham Plains and the different plains in Cromwell and others, and fisheries. The key thing is the ability to have transparency rules. And this is where the policy content needs to have that sort of reflection. Again, the sub-question is, should government participate in these sorts of investments? And I come back to that earlier point, the brown and the greenfield investment projects, now is not the ideal time to engage in that. So we certainly see the role of a robust regulatory system the way to go. Taxation does help, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's really about how PNG wants to make its investment portfolio competitive. And for us, a transparent regulatory environment, liberalized, it does help.
You're watching Resource PNG. After the break, we take a look at village oil palm farming in East New Britain Province. Don't go away. Welcome back to Resource PNG. Oil palm farming is not common in East New Britain. However, recently the crop has been gaining popularity as an ideal cash crop in the province. Landowners, particularly in the Binding area, have freed up portions of their customary land to allow for oil palm farming. The new model of farming, called Village Oil Palm or VOP, allows landowners to run the business on their land. Despite negative implications and a widespread condemnation of the crop in the province, the landowners believe freeing up the land to the oil palm development will bring in more health clinics, schools and roads into the remote villages. MTV's Kokopo-based journalist Edwin Fidelis has this story for Resource PNG.
At Narangit village in inland Binding LLG of East New Britain Province, a groundbreaking ceremony about 2 weeks ago marks the start of a new oil palm mill. Earlier this year, at least 3,000 hectares of untouched forest were cleared in this region and oil palm seedlings planted. Oil palm farming hasn't been much talked about in this region, where cocoa and coconut are predominantly known since the colonial days. Until recently, the crop is slowly gaining popularity in these isolated regions of East New Britain. The oil palm development in the Binding areas follows a farming model called the Smallholder Nucleus Estate Scheme. The growers are organized into Village Oil Palm or VOP who managed their oil palm blocks on their own customary land. An oil palm developer will be invited by the landowner groups to plant the crop. The company and its associated support provide seedlings, expertise, tools, chemicals, and even establishing an oil palm mill. From then on, growers carry the costs as well as repay the development loan plus interests. The growers will repay through the selling of palm fruits when the palms matures. Growers provide labor and bear all the cost of land clearing and all stages of palm plantation establishment, including regular maintenance and harvesting. While the business looks promising, it also brings with it challenges. The risk is on the growers, as their incomes is heavily dependent on the world palm oil price level and the productivity of their plots.
In any investments, and the output were entirely entirely tied up to our revenue. And as regards to the questions, it all depends on how big we will be, how we progress from now. You see. And if we don't achieve our desired planted area, it could also lose a lot of money. So,
the coming of oil palm had been the most controversial topic in the province in recent years. Many cocoa and coconut farmers see it as a threat to their cocoa and coconut plantations. But despite negative implications of the crop, landowners believe the benefits will outweigh the costs and won't follow the same path as Indonesia and other countries where the crop had been the main contributor to deforestation and loss of wildlife.
We play no give him all the ground. We play conserve him some play stuff. Some platasol. We play give him no oil palm.
The developers of the binding oil palm project, Jan New Guinea, has been on the forefront, pushing for the development forward with certainty of achieving its business goals. The Chief Executive Officer of Jan New Guinea, An Kui Tan, says the oil palm project is estimated to generate about 100 million kina every year once it comes into full operation, and a large portion of that money will go to the people's pocket.
in terms of capacity, in terms of size, in terms of development plan, according to what we plan, we are looking at about and generate revenues in terms of like perhaps looking at like something like about 100 million per year annually.
The binding region of East New Britain is one of the most isolated and least developed region in the province. The landowners on numerous occasions say their main aim to introduce oil palm is to improve the delivery of services in their area. Road infrastructures, health and education services are the key areas that they are looking at.
We bring him in to the development, oil palm development project come inside. Now we work him some places. This allow all services where we play bin sabe no sabe kisim long inside long areas. We play some roads, bridges, health, education. We play no sabe kisim before. So we play bring him oil palm development. They come inside. Now we work give him play this allow all services. Atu and we work send him livelihood. Sit down, we play long place.
Na a good place too that he can bring himself a good place service. He come inside long old people. Long black time finish, old man. He been walk long hard walk long carry more something long backside. Na enough and enough.
Our development is quite comprehensive, and I believe that it brings tremendous development, as well as a lot of meaningful and tangible participants by the landowners, as well as those VOPs and outgrowers. And we hope that we will continue to work with the government, the people, and of course with the workers in delivering our goals and objectives. And in this regards, I urge upon all stakeholders to be perseverance, to be diligent, and most of all to be industrious in order to ensure to achieve our common goal.
The move taken by the landowners received ovation from the provincial government. The East New Britain provincial government, meanwhile, has been supporting the move taken by the binding landowners through the national government's private-public partnership. The East New Britain Governor, Eramento Binding Jr. says such initiatives are filling up the void in the social services and infrastructure sector, an area that successive PNG governments hasn't been attending to in many years.
Will generate millions of kina, and contribute to the economic of the province and the country as a whole. Today, through this company and through this project, Ibok long relieving the burden inside the government. Through this company now, the developer, bringing development into remote areas.
You're watching Resource PNG. After the break, PNG Tribal Foundation working in partnership to provide much-needed medical equipment to those in need. Don't go away. Welcome back. Developing partnerships has been recognized as a leading factor in improving healthcare in Papua New Guinea. This was the message to the people of Hela Province when its main hospital, Tari General Hospital, received much-needed medical equipment recently. The donation to the hospital was a result of business, NGOs and the government working together. The delivery of health services in many parts of Papua New Guinea remain unsatisfactory. This despite the country boasting uninterrupted economic growth over the last decade. And for one of the country's newest provinces, Hela, and its capital, Tari, providing health remains a difficult task.
Plenty of cases in workload report here, 15 to 12 to 15,000 trauma cases every month. Minos and plenty money workload sim bagarap yumi bagarap yumi this stuff, so you need to bring him this la figure come down because MSF we go. And now by our doctors by block sim come by usat by look at yumi. But
there are organizations that are willing to help improve the standard of healthcare. One such organization, PNG Tribal Foundation. Recently, the foundation was in Hela Province to provide much-needed equipment to Tari Hospital. Equipment that will help to make the work of hospital staff a little easier.
Foundation, thank you, Lord, this day. Thank you, Lord, you all get to come. Now, all medical supplies come.
The equipment were brought in from the United States following a visit to the US earlier this year by Linda Babao O'Neill, wife of Prime Minister Peter O'Neill, who is also ambassador for PNG Tribal Foundation. She had made a presentation to business executives in Denver, Colorado, whilst raising funds for PNG Tribal Foundation.
Be like, thank you. Thank you, Lord, Dr. Jackson, for giving me opportunity. Nagona sanat na tokta on nice pla man Mary lo Colorado. Man Mary got heart lo all man lo world. All got heart lo all man who got problem. Kiss him some pla he got biroa all by staff lo la.
Also present were representatives from Project Cure, a leading NGO from the United States, which played a crucial role in providing the equipment and delivering them to PNG.
Just walked through the hospital and I met a lot of nurses and doctors that are working at this hospital, and they're dedicated to keep this community healthy. That's why this container is here, is to help give them the tools to make sure that this community stays healthy.
The team from PNG Tribal Foundation and Project Cure also travelled to Mendi, Southern Highlands Province, to carry out an assessment at the Mendi General Hospital to identify what medical equipment the hospital needed. This, according to PNG Tribal Foundation President Gary Bustin, is how their partnership looks to help improve the standard of care in PNG.
First Lady and with Exxon support and with Project Cure and Tribal Foundation coming together with Mapai Transport, as well as Lay Rotary and Ryback Stevedores, we delivered about 1 million kina in medical supplies. So we call it the Tribal Foundation because we work together as a tribe. Wokbung Osemyuto.
And that brings us to the end of this episode of Resource PNG. As always, if you'd like to contribute to the program, get in touch with us via email on resourcepng@mtv.com.pg. You can also log on to www.mtv.com.pg to view this edition again or other previous editions of Resource PNG. We are also on Facebook. Just search for Resource PNG. to get the latest updates on developments within PNG's resource sector. But until the next time, this has been Resource PNG.